90 Day Fiancé, The Last Resort. Season 3 drama explodes. What happens when couples arrive at a luxury resort hoping to save their relationships and somehow end up with even more chaos? On Time's 90 Day, The Last Resort asterisk, the therapy isn't the only thing getting intense. There is drinking drama, explosive arguments, bedroom tension, anger issues, shocking pregnancy speculation, and even a wrestling demonstration that has everyone laughing. But underneath all the jokes, some very serious relationship problems are being exposed. Jenny is struggling with Sumit's drinking. One couple is wondering whether a sudden wave of nausea could mean pregnancy. And when Pao and Russ clash over sleep, anger, and intimacy, their therapy session forces both of them to confront some uncomfortable truths. This may have been called the most entertaining moments of the season, but some of these moments were anything but funny. Let's start with the lighter side of the episode. Pao decided to show the group some of her wrestling skills, and judging by everyone's reaction, nobody was prepared for just how intense she could get. She demonstrated wrestling moves while the other cast members watched, laughed, and tried to stay out of the way. Even Sumit looked like he wasn't completely sure whether he should be standing that close. The funny moment actually gave the group a chance to relax and enjoy themselves. There was joking about powerful women, modeling, making money, and everyone embracing their own personalities. But the conversation eventually moved toward a much more personal subject: relationships, careers, and how family might react to what someone does for a living. One of the women opened up about her past and explained that she had once been involved in dancing before walking away from it after her father discovered what she was doing. Her story showed just how complicated family expectations can become when personal choices collide with traditional values. Meanwhile, another conversation focused on adult content and how a future child might react to seeing a parent's work online. The group had different perspectives, but the underlying question was simple. Should people change their lives because they are worried about what their future children or their families might think? And then, the episode took a much more intimate turn. The couples were shown doing their sex therapy homework. The exercises were designed to rebuild emotional and physical connection, especially for couples who had begun feeling disconnected. For Patrick and Ty, the focus was reportedly less about simply having sex and more about creating intimacy and emotional connection. They were encouraged to look at each other, exchange affirmations, and reconnect through physical affection. But watching the footage back with the group created some seriously awkward and hilarious reactions. Nobody seemed prepared for just how revealing some of the homework would become. And while the cast laughed about it, the exercise exposed a bigger issue. Intimacy isn't always the same thing as emotional closeness. That distinction becomes especially important later. Then we get to Jenny and Sumit. Sumit wanted to enjoy himself at the bar with the guys. From his perspective, everyone was at the resort to have fun as well as work on their relationships. He didn't want to feel like he was the only person who wasn't allowed to let loose. But Jenny wasn't exactly thrilled about the drinking. She became concerned about what could happen if Sumit got too drunk. And according to the conversation, Sumit apparently has a history of drinking to the point where he can become physically unsteady. That immediately creates a familiar relationship problem. One person sees drinking as harmless fun. The other sees it as a potential source of conflict. Sumit wanted freedom. Jenny wanted reassurance. And neither side seemed completely satisfied. The situation became even more awkward when Jenny eventually walked away, leaving Sumit behind. For a couple who came to a resort specifically to repair their marriage, moments like this show how quickly small disagreements can turn into emotional battles. And then the show gave viewers another unexpected twist. One of the biggest surprises came when a woman began feeling extremely nauseous. At first, everyone assumed she might have eaten something bad. There was even joking about the amount of food she had consumed. But then the conversation became serious. She revealed that she had experienced similar symptoms during a previous pregnancy. Suddenly, the possibility of pregnancy entered the conversation, and that was a huge problem because, according to the discussion, the couple had not come to the resort intending to get pregnant. They were there to work on their marriage. So the possibility of an unexpected pregnancy would completely change the situation. The group began connecting the dots: morning nausea, food cravings, and memories from the previous pregnancy. But here's where viewers need to be careful. The footage raises the possibility of pregnancy, but the conversation itself does not establish a confirmed pregnancy. That distinction matters. Reality television loves a cliffhanger, and this was definitely one of them. For the couple involved, however, the possibility alone was enough to create anxiety. Imagine arriving at a relationship retreat, hoping to fix communication problems, and suddenly wondering whether you might be expecting another baby. That would change the entire conversation. But perhaps the most revealing relationship drama came from Pao and Russ. Their argument wasn't really about one single event. It was about exhaustion. It was about resentment. And it was about a pattern that had apparently been building for a long time. Pal explained that she had been struggling to sleep because of Russ's behavior. From her perspective, she felt like he wasn't taking her frustration seriously. Russ, however, gave a completely different explanation. He said he had actually tried to be considerate. Rather than staying in the room and potentially disturbing her, he got up early, went to the gym, and eventually went for a walk through the countryside. To Russ, that was an attempt to give her space. To Pal, the larger problem was that she felt emotionally unheard. And this is where their therapy session became important. Pal admitted that she needed to work on controlling her anger and listening more. But she also explained that when she becomes extremely angry, she feels like a completely different version of herself comes out. She even gave that angry persona a name: Patricia. According to Pal, Patricia is fiery, aggressive, and ready to fight. And while that explanation was delivered with some humor, there was a serious realization underneath it. Pal recognized that her anger was becoming part of the problem. But she also felt that Russ's behavior was provoking her. That creates a dangerous relationship cycle. He does something she dislikes, she becomes angry, he feels attacked, the argument escalates, then they reconnect physically. And afterward, they may feel close again without actually solving the original problem. That's exactly what their conversation about intimacy revealed. Sex isn't always the same as making love. One of the most interesting moments came when the couple discussed what happened after one of their arguments. Russ viewed their physical connection as an emotional reconnection, but Pal saw it differently. To her, there was a clear difference between having sex and making love. That distinction might sound small, but emotionally, it was huge. Russ believed physical intimacy meant they were reconnecting. Pal felt that physical intimacy didn't automatically erase the anger or hurt that came beforehand. And that's a problem many couples can understand. You can be physically close to someone while still feeling emotionally disconnected. You can apologize without changing the behavior that caused the argument. And you can have a romantic moment without actually fixing the issue underneath it. The therapy session seemed to force both of them to look at that reality. Pal acknowledged that she needed to control her anger, but Russ also needed to understand that simply assuming everything was okay, because they had become physically intimate, wasn't enough. If one partner thinks the relationship has been repaired while the other still feels hurt, the same fight is almost guaranteed to return. And that's what makes these moments more than just entertaining reality TV chaos. Every couple seems to have a different version of the same problem. Jenny and Sumit are dealing with control, trust, and drinking. Another couple is dealing with the pressure of intimacy and expectations. The pregnancy scare introduces an entirely new level of uncertainty. And Pal and Russ are dealing with anger, communication, sleep, and the difference between physical connection and emotional connection. The resort may be beautiful, the therapy may be professional, but none of that matters if the couples aren't willing to actually change their behavior. And that's the difficult part. It's easy to say, I'm going to work on myself. It's much harder to change what you do when you're angry, insecure, jealous, exhausted, or feeling ignored. That's why Pal's Patricia confession may actually be one of the most important moments of the entire episode, because she recognized something about herself that she didn't like. The question now is whether recognizing the problem will actually lead to changing it. Honestly, this episode had everything: wrestling moves, awkward sex therapy homework, drinking drama, a possible pregnancy scare, relationship arguments, and one woman literally blaming her explosive behavior on an alter ego named Patricia. But beneath all the entertainment, there are some serious questions. Can Jenny and Sumit find a balance between enjoying themselves and respecting each other's boundaries? Can couples learn that physical intimacy doesn't automatically solve emotional problems? And can Pal actually control her anger instead of constantly blaming Russ for bringing Patricia out? Because if these couples don't change the patterns that brought them to the resort in the first place, no amount of therapy or romance will permanently fix the relationships.